Today, we're going to be looking at the 4 psychological stages that every retiree goes through and how that could be holding you back. As the owner of an independent financial planning firm, I've done hundreds of consultations in the past 3 years, and I've learned that most people preparing for retirement fear these 3 things. Number 1, they don't want to make a catastrophic mistake that might cause harm to their retirement. Number 2, they don't want to miss out on important financial opportunities. And number 3, they don't want to look foolish by having trusted someone who they should not have. So that's exactly why we're making this video today, to help you understand the psychological stages you'll go through when preparing for retirement, but also so that you can resolve those 3 fears and retire with confidence and peace of mind. So how many of you watching this video have heard of Malcolm Gladwell's concept of 10,000 hours to mastery? Now, he may or may not be right about the number of hours, but the concept is actually pure gold. Anything in life worth mastering will take many hours and significant investments of time to master. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you'll know that I believe that pretty much any retirement problem can be solved with education, and retirement is no different. So as you think about accumulating your 10,000 hours to retirement mastery, you're going to go through 4 stages. These stages come from a concept in the field of education called the competence ladder. So as I explain and weave in some stories today, I want you to visualize yourself climbing up a ladder. The first rung on that ladder is a stage called unconscious incompetence. And this is a period in your life before you get serious about retirement planning. Now, at this point in your life, retirement is just not a focus on your radar. You may have some skill and knowledge deficits that will need to be overcome later. But again, in this stage, you really don't even know those deficits exist because you're not quote unquote in the retirement game, so to speak. Now, most of you watching this video have already passed through that stage and have moved on to either the second or third rung of the ladder. The second rung of this ladder is what we call conscious incompetence. At this stage, you recognize that you have knowledge or skill gaps that need to be solved, but you don't have the answers. Now, I find most people that I speak to preparing for retirement to be stuck in this stage. When you begin getting serious about retirement planning, everything feels heightened. Right? The visual I have in my mind is that of a foot soldier in World War I. You're thrown into battle and bullets are whizzing past you and whoosh, there goes one bullet. Should I do Roth conversions? And whoosh, another bullet. Do I have enough money? Whoosh, what will taxes be like in retirement compared to when I was working? Whoosh, do I have a retirement budget, right? And these bullets are just constantly whizzing past us. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels important. Everything feels like life or death, success or failure. Things actually just feel balanced on a knife's edge. And this makes sense when I think about those core retiree fears, right? You don't want to make a mistake that could catastrophically derail your retirement. You also don't want to miss out on a high-value opportunity that leaves you worse off than you could have been. And because in this stage, we don't know everything about retirement, which I can reassure you is not possible, no one does, it's better to assume that every bullet, every retirement problem whizzing by you is a life or death problem, because rather than not knowing, and therefore missing or ignoring the actual opportunity that will solve the problem, you'd rather attend to everything than potentially miss it and actually get hit by the life or death bullet. So the question here is, how do we move from rung 2, where you know you have a problem but you don't know how to solve it, to the third rung of the ladder, which is where we know we have a problem and we can solve it, but only through great effort, great focus, and often with some risk of making mistakes. Moving from conscious incompetence, which is rung 2 of the ladder, to conscious competence, which is where we now know how to solve problems, which is rung 3 of the ladder, is a process of many hours of education, but also trial and error. This is a tactical process where you learn not just that taxes will be different in retirement because Social Security is taxed in its own unique way, or because withdrawals from traditional retirement accounts are all classified as ordinary income, even if the withdrawals are cash held within the account. But in this stage, you also learn how to solve those problems. But again, it requires great effort and focus, and if that effort and focus are interrupted, mistakes are likely to occur. So carrying forward that military analogy, it really helps me when I think about it this way. When you're on rung 2 of the ladder, you're this foot soldier. You're fighting in the trenches in World War I. And rung 3 of the ladder is like going to officer candidate school, right? They throw you into 6 months of training. You learn how to think and solve bigger problems. You learn how to manage your resources and manage like a platoon, maybe 2 or 3 soldiers, and think at a slightly higher level. But we're still operating at the tactical level, solving problems without having a guiding overall strategy. And it's because the guiding strategy really comes at rung 4 of the ladder of competence. The fourth rung, or the top of this ladder, is called unconscious competence. And this is where skills are so ingrained, have become such second nature that they're nearly effortless. And as a result of that accumulation of skill and effortlessness, a significant proportion of your attention can then be reclaimed and redirected towards strategy or towards teaching others skills or teaching those other skills to people who are stuck on rungs 2 and 3. And the visual I have in my head here is of a general, right? So back to Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours concept. A foot soldier doesn't need much training, right? Throw them into boot camp for 6 weeks and you can send them into battle. Their job is just to stay alive, right? Accomplish the mission, which is exactly why when you as a retiree are on rung 2, every retirement problem feels like life or death because your job at that point is just to stay alive to get to rung 3, right? To become an officer. And to become an officer might take an additional 6 months of training. And then at that point, you're on rung 3 of the ladder and you can better recognize which retirement activities are actually life or death. But you only have 7.5 months of training at that point, and so you're not exactly an expert, and everything still requires a lot of focus, intentional effort, and still comes with risk because we're still thinking tactically and not strategically, and we can therefore still make mistakes. To get from rung 3 to rung 4 actually takes way more time than expected. It's logarithmic, not linear. Going from a lieutenant, let's say that's like the first officer level, hypothetically, to a general could take 20 or even 30 years. And that's because to really ascend the ladder takes a huge investment of time, education, effort, but also repetition. You've got to do it a lot. The rewards in this case are disproportionate because at that level, the level 4, rung 4, the general level, we can build and put into effect a strategy that can be the guiding principle that helps us win the quote-unquote retirement battle or retirement war. Now, having explained this conceptually, I'd like to leave you with 3 summarizing points. Point number 1, retirement planning is a war. It's not a battle and it's not one skirmish, right? It's a series of battles that will comprise a longer strategic war. And it's a war that is best won by having a guiding strategy. That strategy should indicate what we're optimizing for. Are you optimizing for the largest pool of wealth at the end of your life? Are you optimizing for the best balance between spending while young and not putting your future self at risk? Or are you optimizing so that you can die with 0? Okay, summarizing point number 2. Properly planning for retirement takes more time than we expect. And that's not because the problems are complex to solve, but because retirement is a longer, harder problem than we expect. Let me clarify. Complex problems require lots of intelligence, creativity, and cleverness to solve, but are usually things that can be solved with one quick, hard push. Hard things, conversely, are simple, but require long-term repeated discipline and effort, which is exactly what makes them hard, because sticking to the simple things long-term is actually way more difficult than solving one short-term complex problem. And that's what the retirement game is all about. It's about sticking to long-term simple things that you do over and over again. And that's also why proper retirement planning takes more time than we expect. Retirement success is about sticking to a budget month after month or year after year. It's about executing a 10-year Roth conversion plan. It's about rebalancing your portfolio quarterly every year for the rest of your life. Now, I could list 10 more items that are simple, but require discipline and a plan to execute on, but you get the picture. And this leads us to summarizing point number 3, which is that the first year or 2 of retirement are all about experimentation. In order to learn, you have to execute. And if you execute, you're going to make mistakes. You might overspend by a little bit, or you might make a mistake on a Roth conversion. Now, I can reassure you that it is very, very difficult to make catastrophic mistakes that completely derail your retirement in the first year alone. Yes, buying an expensive boat or a mansion will blow your retirement up. But that's actually a really silly concept. Normal people don't behave like that. That's why you won't see on my channel me making silly videos talking about the 5 stupid spending mistakes retirees make, and then talking about buying boats or Ferraris or whatever, because that's actually just ridiculous and kind of patronizing, and most people just don't do that. The key point here is that to move from rung 3, which is conscious competence, where you know what to do, but it requires a lot of effort and a lot of focus, to rung 4, which is unconscious competence, which is where it doesn't require a lot of effort and it's basically second nature. Or said more simply, to move from a lieutenant to a general, it's going to take many hours of executing a plan diligently over long periods of time in order to accumulate the expertise, the skill, and frankly, the tolerance, the comfort level that separates a lieutenant from a general. That being said, you don't always have to become a general yourself. Now, in fact, you probably know this from watching my channel. I don't actually recommend that retirees invest 10,000 hours to become retirement masters, right? You can totally do that if that's what you want to do. My opinion, that it's far better to find and hire a general who can provide you the strategy and the list of tactics that will successfully accomplish the strategy. To find and hire that general who has unconscious competence with the retirement planning subject matter you're seeking to learn, so that that general can then accelerate your process of working up the ladder of competence by teaching you and partnering with you in the execution of your retirement plan. So, with that said, if you'd like to learn more about what an actual retirement strategy looks like and how you can apply these concepts to your personal retirement planning efforts, I'm hosting a free masterclass this week where I show the actual construction and execution of a retirement strategy. Just click the link in the description to this video below and register for free. And thank you as always for your time and attention. I'll see you in the next video.